Hi everyone, welcome to Carly's Creative Clay. I'm Carly Langridge, the person who owns, runs and does everything on it. I'm going to get started pretty quick. First thing I start out with is every week I do an item that's available to buy in my shop. My Etsy listing is in the top corner. There's no face camera on.
No face camera.
Sorry about that.
Oh.
That's on big.
Alright.
We're just
where has that gone? Should be
face camera seems to have vanished. I've got a new technical help today because James was feeling unwell. He should be back at some point soon, and then we'll make sure that he gets the face camera on. I'm sure it's a button that we're not finding properly, but that's fine, you can still see the work. This dragon we made in a previous episode, and I wanted to show that it was baked up. Sorry about the overlay, guys, if you can see that on your screen. Oh, okay, sorry about that. It's baked up and been varnished, so it's got keeper of your last, guardian of my last marble and a heart, and he's holding a marble and he's got glitter all around the base, and definitely one that I really like. One of my favourite dragons so far. He's in the shop now for £45 if anyone has any interest in it. Right, quick face shot, and I'll put him to one side and get on with what we're going to do. There we go. Right, now today I'm going to be focusing on something called a pattern sheet, and what this basically is when you make a pattern from polymer clay, before you can turn it into a bowl or cover something with it, you need to get all the bits stuck together and all the lines smoothed out. Now the hardest thing to do this with is the polymer clay canes, which I showed before. They are sticks of picture that go all the way through the stick. If you're interested in how to make this one, I've got previous videos on my YouTube channel. But the hardest thing to make into a pattern sheet are picture canes and kaleidoscope canes where you're not distorting the image. So I'll show you where I got to so far, because I'm making a top for a little table that I've got. This is a good example of a pattern sheet. These are, what have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4 different types of cane going on there. And as you can see, I've got it smooth, I've got it so that there's not much gaps. Now there's lots of points on this that can be really tricky. There's the view that if you don't get the slices exactly equal thicknesses to each other, they won't fit together properly and the rolling out will distort the image. I've got a little bit of a hack around that, so I'm going to go through all my hacks that I've just learnt from trial and error, and you can let me know in the comments or on any of the different social medias how you find it and if it worked for you or anything like that. It'd be really interesting to know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with an edge. I've measured out the table, and then I have cut 2 of the short top sides to go up there and 2 of the longer edge sides, so I know what's got to be where so it all fits together once it comes out the oven, because the table's too big to fit in the oven. Even if I take all the legs off, the actual top side needs to be done in stages. So I'm going to put the pattern sheet to one side for now, talk a little bit more about what we're going to do. There are a couple of ways that you can make your pattern sheet, and it depends on how you're going to use it. If you have got like a statue that you want to cover with clay, you can make a flat sheet like what I'm showing here, or you can choose to add the slices individually to the item that you're covering and just sort of use your fingers to help push it into place. And I will go through ways of covering an item like that. I actually have a hippo that I'm going to do on a future live stream. What I will be covering today is making the pattern sheet not already attached to the thing I'm covering, making it as a separate sheet that I can add afterwards. It's easier to do if you're only going to see one side of the finished result. So for my instance, it'll be stuck on a wooden table, so no one's going to see the underside. And you'll see when I start going into the demonstration why that is. It is possible to do this so it looks good on both sides. And don't worry, towards the end I will show how to do that. So what you need first is your Polymer Clay Cane. Now, the other problem you can have is if they don't tessellate completely, you can end up with gaps. So you've got the thickness of the cane, you've got gapping issues. Have I got one that I've already done into a triangle? Yeah, let's start with this one. And you've got smudging and distorting issues. And all these things I will be getting into. But firstly, I'm going to make sure my cane is the right shape and thickness to what I want. So I might bring it down a bit. So just to remind you, when you are working and making polymer clay canes and you're reducing them, you start from the middle and work out to the tips, and then you don't distort the image in the cane. So it's been a while since I made this one, so just giving it a bit of a stretch and a warm up because I want it smaller anyway. So it's always a good idea to make your canes slightly bigger than you're going to use them if you're storing them, because just the act of reducing will help make the clay a bit more flexible again. Right, so that line with the black at the top, just pinching along to bring it back into a rough triangle. Now, because I'm going to be doing this patching technique, it doesn't matter if I get a perfectly crisp triangle, but you can pinch along and really sharpen up the edges. It just takes a bit more time for you to get that spot on, but it's worth making sure you've got at least roughly the right shape for your tessellation at the beginning, mainly because trying to reshape it once it's been sliced is a real tedious job. So yeah, that would do for now. Make sure that side's all pinched up right. There we are. Right, so we've got a triangle. Now, you can use, there are some really good cane slicers on the market where the machine accurately measures each slice and does a whole range of things. They're really good but really expensive. The other little side hack that you can use if you want to really measure your slices to make sure that they are exactly the same size of each other is this. It's called a mitre block. You can get them for about £2. This is a mini one. They do come up with ones about that sort of size, so quite big. So if you're working on very thick canes, you can use those. Now, they are made of plastic, and it's generally the plastic that melts when it's in prolonged contact with polymer clay, so don't leave your cane sitting in it. It's fine for the purposes of measuring and slicing, just clean it up after. Now, some people put the ruler down the side and then put the cane in the block and measure from that line how much is sticking over the edge. But I think, personally, I prefer to put the ruler inside, put the cane on the ruler to the furthest edge that you're not going to use. So, yeah, helps if I get my ruler around the right way, like that, because I want to use the thicker line. So I'm going to go across the edge like this. Now, and centre it up to that edge. Then you get your tissue blade, and it's going to sit in like that. So you can measure along and take slices from it like that. So you just push along, because the ruler's slidey. If you didn't put the clay on the ruler, then you got less slide happening. So about that. Now, when I started out, here we go, let's do a straight slice. I used this quite a bit, because as you see, you can measure it out very well. Now I kind of eyeball it. I don't use my miter block very much, I'm honest, because I've found having it perfectly accurate for my purposes doesn't make a massive difference. I know some people will shoot me down in flames for that, but there you have it. I'm happy eyeballing it. And I would say, don't make your slices too thin. Again, that's contrary to what a lot of caners, people who do this as their main craft, they say make your slices very thin. I find it harder to work with very thin clay. It's more likely to stick to the rolling pin and tear. It's harder to squidge into different shapes. I'd rather make a thick pattern sheet and then shave some off if I need to. I tend to not work in anything that needs a very thin veneer anyway. But so my advice would be, if you can get away with a thick pattern sheet, it's a better way of going. And like you saw in that middle block, it's not, I'm not talking massively thick, I'm talking, what are we, a couple of millimetres or 3 or 4 millimetres thick. Any thinner than that, it's going to be very hard to manipulate. So I've cut myself some slices so we can get started. Now, if you get over the top of the clay, so I'm literally up over the top looking down at it, you can see what your slice thickness is a lot easier than if you're sat back looking at a sort of down forward angle. So perspective is kind of important on this, but at the end I do shave off the top layer of it, so it's not so mission critical. Right, so I'm just going along. Once I've done a few slices, take them, put them to one side, and then you need to flip your clay.
Do a few more because we didn't see it on the camera.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Once I get up, there we go. You can see it better. Right, once you've taken a few slices like that, take the slices away, move them to one side, and roll your cane. if you keep cutting from exactly the same size, you'll start to push it down, and you'll end up looking halfway up the cane and the whole thing's sort of smudged flat. Rolling it will keep it actually to the right shape. So I do 3, 4. Some people say do it after every single chop. I take about 4 off and then flip it. I'll do one more and that will give me a few to get started on. There we go. Right. Put this to one side. Blade face away from you when you put it down. Now, I'm going to start along this edge. Decide how you want your cane slices to be tessellated, because you know every side combination will make a different picture. So if you've made a square, you've got 4 different options. If you've made a triangle, there's 3, etc. I suppose if you count flipping them over, that gives you even more, but it kind of looks odd when you don't stay in pattern. Right, with this one, I want to match my butterflies up. So I'm doing, let's come over it. Are you able to zoom in slightly? Thanks.
Yep. Oh. Where are we? Oh, the zoom in's here.
Zoom, the top one is zoom in, the bottom one is zoom in.
Okay, thank you.
There we go. Right.
Let's focus a bit better.
And we're just working on focus. Right, so I am matching my butterflies up like that. Now, if you remember, I have done a tutorial on this, so if you like that cane, you can go away and make it. It is a thing. Right, so I'm matching all my butterflies up and putting them so that they're facing all the same way. Oop. And I seem to find quite often I will make a very big project covered in canes, and when I look back at it, there's one that's facing the wrong way or the wrong side up. I'm like, but it seems to be a thing that the artist always notices the imperfections that the general public just don't see, and I think that's a good thing. We can be too critical of ourselves. Right, almost there. I've got half a butterfly. Let's get one last slice. Brilliant bit of miscounting there. There we go, another slice. Move you to one side. Right. Match you up. There we go. Right, some butterflies. So now I know that this is exactly the size that I want. I can start going along, and you're going to push them down onto your greaseproof paper. And the thing is, we're not using the top side of this. We're going to use the underside of it, if that makes sense. So that will mean you get less distortion. So I'm just gonna go along, and you can push them into the shape that you want if they're not right, and just keep adding them until you've got a bit of a line going on.
We've just had a message saying Zine has said quiet chat this week.
Oh, am I talking very quietly?
No, it's quiet chat as in.
Oh,
chatting.
yeah, no, it's true. It's half term, maybe everyone's with their kids, who knows, but I don't mind, because I know this all gets watched on YouTube anyway, so it's not a waste of my time. I like showing you all what I'm up to. But yes, it is on the quiet side. So, as you can see, I'm getting there with that little line. Like this. And you can tessellate in different shapes, and I'll show you, because you're going to fill in some gaps. So I'll show you that in a second. Right, come on, square up. There we are, that's better. And like that. I will take it all the way to the end in a bit. The other thing you can do, if you think your lines are a bit out, use your blade just to offer resistance. So I'm pushing on one side, sort of towards the top, against my blade to make a flat edge. Does that make sense? So they're all actually in line with each other again. And you can do that around all four sides to make sure it's all squaring off the way you want. So like that. Like that. Along the bottom. Can you see how it's just making them all a bit more uniform? And this would be a nightmare to do with a very, very thin slice, because they'll just bow in the middle. Right. So, what I will be doing next is I'm going to do lines of some different colour.
We have Charlie Star saying hello everyone.
Hello Charlie Star, welcome, welcome. I'm just starting to show about how to turn your cane into a pattern sheet. I'll finish this roll off with butterflies just to show you what I've been doing. So
Charlie Star says, sorry I'm late, I was stuck on a phone call.
that's alright.
What have I missed? Which you've obviously started to say
Yeah.
anyway.
Right, when you're making your cane slices, let's get it so it's on camera. That's always a good start when you're doing a video tutorial. Right.
Charlie's worked out who I am. Hi. She says, hi, Evil Monkey.
Yes, I got Evil Monkey doing my admin today because Jamie is not feeling up to it, because unfortunately yesterday night we lost our last guinea pig.
Yeah.
We are now pigless.
You have to bear with me on the camera work and stuff, but hopefully I'm doing an alright job.
You're doing an awesome job.
Fairy Hedgehog says hi all.
Hi. So what I'm saying is you take about 3 or 4 slices from your cane, and then you flip it over so that you're not chopping on the same side all the time. Because if you chop on the same side, you'll start to push it flat. So 4 slices. Some people say you need to flip after one. I say you're going to spend a lot of time fiddling doing that.
Charlie Star says, oh no, I believe that's in response to your
Yeah.
news. Fairy Hedgehog says, it's as easy as knitting. And Charlie Star says, huge cuddles for all of you.
Thank
I'm so
you.
sorry.
It's alright, it's part of being guinea pig owners. They have a 7-year lifespan, and she was 7. And they have massive personalities, and I love them loads, but they're heartbreakers. Right, so I've pushed the 2 halves together to make more of a square sort of shape with the butterfly in the middle. And I'm making sure that I do the same line up for each of the slices, like that. And I was saying, if you work on very thin cane slices, they tend to be harder to manipulate and manage. Right, so they're now going to meet up with the rest of them. Put along the edge. Like that. Make sure you've got them all facing the right way. So, not like that then. That's it. That way. Right, one last one going on like that. Then, because they're thicker, you can use your blade, you blade side down against the clay, and you push down and towards the blade, and it lines up the slices a lot more easier than trying to do it by eye. And same the other side, and along the ends. Right, you got your first line on your sheet, and can you see they're not exactly even thickness? There's some that are a little bit higher than others. That is all okay. Let's get a drink. Now, the next one I want to put in, they're round, and that's fine. Should I do an edging? Yeah. What I did with some of the old canes, the distorted bit, I twisted them together, folded them over, twisted, did that about 4 or 5 times, rolled it into a ball, flattened it out. Then you cut slices off all the outside, flip them over to face the inside, and that's the design you'll get through it. And I find that makes a really good edging between canes. So what I do is I cut a slice that is roughly the same thickness as the rest of it, cut that into little strips so that I can put a border in. You don't have to border between canes, but I find that it's something that I really like to do. It just adds a different dimension of colour. So you just put it next to it, hold that you're not sliding it off your paper, and just push it on. Get it to the shape that you want, and just add along. Now, you're going to need to slightly overlap if it thins down at the edges, but you can normally just fiddle it along and get it to the shape and thickness that you want. You can use your blade to push it into shape, which is something I'm going to do in a minute. But I'll be 2 seconds getting this in. There we go. Right, one last one. There we are. Now, I can see I'm probably going to have to do a half butterfly in the corner there, so just one triangle. Same the other side. Right, so we've now got a border line. We can start putting in some of the circles. So again, check your thickness, that it's roughly the same as the rest of this. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to just push along, make sure that that's a nice flat edge. There we go. Right, let's cut some of these. So about that thickness, 2, 3, 4, roll it to about 25. So if you're at 12, you're rolling it to 3, then down to 6, then up to 9, so that you don't distort your little circles. Now let's get some of these out so I can show you. This is going to be a good opportunity for me to show you how I fill gaps in that don't tessellate up properly, and it's a neat little trick. That should do it. Right, I'm going to put these along like that, and there's little triangles in between them now. So I will show you how I fill them in. First off, make sure that you've got all your cane slices in together and touching against the wall, and they're roughly the same thickness, or you'll have problems where it'll start to smudge over. But where you're going to trim it up, that'll be fine. So I've got about 5 more slices and then
Fairy
I can show you.
Hedgehog says, is my sound broken?
Am I talking quietly?
I don't know.
It's going up to the yellow, it shouldn't be.
Yeah, no. And Charlie Star says, can you do a close-up view of the circle cane, please? I will hopefully try and get... let's get the... There we go.
There you are. So if you stay at that focus, let's bring the whole lot up and show you what I'm at. So we've got butterflies and edging and circle, and that is going to fit in around this.
I've update on Fairy Hedgehog, she says, or is it Switch? Okay, it was me. No idea how that happened. And Charlie Star said, thank you, that is gorgeous. For the,
So this
let's
is
go back.
going to end up like that. See? And I've got 3 more of these panels that fit in, because the whole size of this is too big for my oven, so I've got to do this in bits. Right, here we go. Put that back up out the way, because that's enough work to not want you to squash it. Let's put a few more.
Charlie Star says, that is beautiful, Carly.
Thank you. I do love the busyness that you get off cane work. If you find it's looking too busy, you can do borders in plain colours, so that starts to break it up a little more. Just my little tip for you there. Right, let's line that up, because that slice is a bit too thin. It's a bit naughty to do that, but there you have it, I'm doing it. Yeah, it's fine, it looks fine. Won't even notice. 1 more slice and that will be what I want. Right, now, since we are going to be using the underside of this, it makes it less important how we push clay into the gaps. So what I can do is, where's my dark brown gone? Actually, black. Get some black. I have little plastic drawers that I keep all my scraps of clay in. Do test your plastic before you put your clay on it all. So if you get a new plastic item, just take a pinch of clay and you want to push it on firmly and smudge it in there and leave it on for about 48 hours. If it starts to melt, don't put the rest of your clay in it. If it doesn't start to melt, you're good. You can use it for all your raw clay, but it can sometimes, it melts some plastics. So right, I'm taking little pinches, small bits, and I'm putting it in the space between the circles that I want to fill, and I'm just going to smudge it in a bit. And you don't need to worry about it looking that smart on the top, because it will look better on the bottom. And I will show you an example of this on that bit I've already done. If you look at the black, that looks beautifully neat. The actual top side of this is that. Can you see how it's overlapping? I've literally just smushed it in. Where the paper holds it all firm, the other side looks really tidy. And it's a good way to think about when you're building up canes, because if you're using transparent, you put the cane that you want to be on the top layer, put them on first, and then you put on the next one that you want behind on top of that, and then smooth that all in, and you can actually have layers of canes, and it looks pretty awesome. I know there's at least a couple of people who make pens that do that, and it does look fabulous. But that's how they're doing it. They're not achieving it on the top, they're achieving it on the underside. And that's the tip to take away with here. So you fill in all the gaps, little bits. You don't want to overfill them because you don't want to have them pushing out and distorting. But already I've overlapped one of the flowers, and that is absolutely fine. If I was using the top side, I'd be really stressing right now, and I'm not. So just that can really help make a pattern sheet a lot easier and less of a faff. So there we go. I'm just doing it quickly, pushing down in the holes, and any gaps you see where the canes don't meet up, just get a coloured clay that you think either blends in well or is a background colour that you like, and just start filling in all the little holes. Now, if you are trying to preserve the top side, so you're mounting it on something, or you're making a bowl where both sides are visible, you can use you need to put something over the top before you start to roll it to stop distortion. Now, cling film seems to be the obvious way to go with that, but it's not, because it puts crease lines in it. It's too thin. So the way the rest of the claying community have gone with this is deli wrap. Now you will see deli wrap, it's it looks like thick cling film, or in England definitely there are supermarkets, when you go to buy the vegetables, those clear plastic bags that they give you, it's that sort of thickness of plastic, and you can put that over the top, and when you start to smooth in, it stops you distorting it so much. You will see that technique when I do the hippo probably in the next month or so. What I would suggest is, firstly, because you don't want to use a rolling pin when you're trying to keep the top layer, because it does start to smudge everything out. What I use when I'm trying to keep the top layer, let's find it, because I wasn't going to show this off today. Right, polished stones. Find one that's got a nice flat edge. So I use this one. It's got quite a flat side to it. You can hold it quite nice, and that is a really good tool for polishing. You're going to be doing little circles, but because I'm not worried about the top side getting distorted, it's the bottom side that I want on this one.
Very Hedgehog says, neat idea.
Yeah, you need something, especially if you've got a model or something that's got lots of different contours to it. A rolling pin ain't going to get through that. So having a bunch of tumble stones really helps. Yeah, this is what I was going to say. For my UK watchers, it's really hard to find deli wrap. I was recommended this stuff. Let's see. Let's hold it up this way. It's a Lakeland. Yeah. And it's called They would do white on a silver thing, wouldn't they? Easy leave roll. This box, there's 300 sheets and it was a £5. Now, what you get, roll like that, and they are individual, kind of thick plastic sheets, and you get to about there and it's perforated, so you can tear it off, put that over your work, and it will start to hold so you don't get such a distortion.
Charlie Star says, I'm gonna be here watching, but I'm also trying to make something, so I won't be chatting too much.
No
I'm
worries.
loving the handy tips though.
Yeah. It's all stuff that I haven't thought of. It's all stuff that I've learnt from the Polymer Clay community. I think the polished stone I came up with because I needed something to smooth with, and I didn't have anything of that shape, so it was one of those ones where necessity gave me the answer. Right, so we've got all the gaps filled in and it's all roughly the same thickness. What we're going to do is we're going to get our rolling pin and we're going to start to smooth it so that the lines are starting to vanish. And although we're not keeping the top, it's a good indicator of what's going on underneath. We will flip it over and smooth it out in a bit, but we're really trying to just switch those edges into each other so that they sit right. I think I might put black in those corners because then I can switch that in without actually distorting the round shape on the other side. So give me 2 seconds and I'll put in, when you've got an open edge, because before I was just pushing it in the gap, it's even easier because you can just literally with your fingernail just push it in, pinch and push. So I found when I realised that most people aren't that bothered about having a absolutely perfect cane sheet with no distortions and everything exactly the same size, it gets lost. That sort of problems gets lost in the end product. It looks beautiful. Once I relaxed with what I was doing, I had far more fun and far more success. It was very stressful when I first came to making pattern sheets. I can't tell you it wasn't. So I understand why there's so many clayers who avoid doing it. But it doesn't have to be that way. It can be quite simple. You're just building up, working along. Some people work from the middle out. It's up to you. I find it easier working in one direction personally, but I suppose it depends on what your design is. Right, and it's amazing how quick it comes together. I'm almost 3 lines in on this, so there we are. Couple more. I'm not even measuring them out, you see, because any excess smudges up the top on the side that we don't want anyway, so it's not a problem. Right, here we go, like that. So I don't know, but I hope you guys in America are starting to have your snow melt. I know the last week you've all been annoyed as heck because you've all been snowed in, especially in areas of America that just doesn't normally get snow. So I've been feeling for you, because us in the UK, we're used to things getting very snowy, rainy, cold and rough. But I think it was in Florida. I'm not sure Florida's even had snow before. I'm sure it might do it back in the Ice Age, but yeeps. Yep, I bet you're all looking forward to getting your shorts back on. Right, so smoothing it out. Now, when you want to take off a paper, don't try and lift the clay off like that, you'll tear it. What you need to do, lay down on the board, fold the paper over and peel it back on itself. Can you see? Then you can lift it up, put it back on something for you to move around. Right, can you see just from that bit of rolling? There we go. It's all gone smooth on the underside. The pattern hasn't distorted. The little black triangles that looked like such a mess on the back side now look really like you precision measured them in. Yeah? And if it is too thick for you after doing that, go back to the back side, the side that is the scruffy one that you don't care.
Fairy Hedgehog says, it's so neat.
It is, but again, that's the back side. That's the one that looks like a train wreck. If you don't get shown it, I've done this and I've got to this stage and gone, well, it's something beginning with an F I can't say on here. And walked away from a few pattern sheets before I really took a look at the other side and realised that this is such a kludge. They will all squeeze in on each other. It's fine. If it's too thick, get yourself your...
Fairy Hedgehog's rolling on the floor laughing. I think I heard something.
Right. If your finished sheet is thicker than you want it, go to the unused side, put it up. You want to put it on your glass board because you don't want it sliding at this. Get your flexible blade. You're going to put a bend in it, and then you're just going to start to shave off like that, little bits until it's the thickness you want. Instead of trying to roll it thinner, you're more likely to distort the other side than you are shaving off. But again, I tend not to. I'd rather use a thicker sheet. And again, it will stick to your glass, so you want your rigid blade back. Blade, you're going to bring it towards you, either at the top of your piece, hold either side of it, blade towards the glass, and you just pull it underneath like that, and it just releases it. When you try to push it away, it's a far more unstable action, and you're more likely either to hurt yourself or ruin your work. But yeah, pattern sheet, it's just that easy. Get what you want, cut it roughly the thickness you want, smush it together, pick clay, fill in the gaps, roll over the top, flip it over, and it looks awesome. I will be showing you how to do this so that you can stick it onto models, so you need to use both sides, but I'm going to do that on another day. I really hope you find it less threatening to do a pattern sheet from now on. If you want ideas for ways to use pattern sheets, if you look in my Etsy shop, I've mounted them on vases. You can put them over bowl forms. So if you've got have I got a bowl going? Yeah, this is a plastic one, but it'll give you an idea. So you've got a glass bowl, you can then put your sheet of clay over the bowl, just slightly tap it down, and it will form that bowl sort of shape. Once you bake it, you then slide it off the bowl, and you've got a bowl shape. That's how I made all my little cane bowls, the ones that look like that. So that went over the top of a bowl as a sheet and gets slid off. You can wrap them around vases, wrap them around teapots, mount them into signs. There's a million uses. There's pens and jewellery. You can stamp out jewellery shapes. So lots and lots of ideas once you start to get used to doing this. Do feel free to like, share, follow me on here, on all my social media. I'm Carly's Creative Clay. Thank you all for coming. It's going to be a quick one this week, but I hope you all have a good week. Alright, speak to you all soon. Bye!